Hi everybody. I figured I'd go ahead and get on here and upload the video that I told you I'd planned to be making about our ethical considerations that we had when we were planning and prayerfully considering our next steps for creating our family. As you may know, we're very dedicated Christians. My husband leads a Bible study of about 100 people. We have a lot of Christian influence in our lives, and for much of our lives we've been told that IVF was not an option for anybody because there were too many ethical areas that made it not okay. And that was the mindset that we had going into it without doing any research or trying to understand, more about the situation. We kind of had just listened to what we had heard was wrong. Nobody had really told us why it was wrong, just that it was, and had never done any research for ourselves. So I think that we kind of walked into the situation being a little judgmental of the people who did choose that route. And so when we were told that that was our only option, we decided it was really time to start prayerfully considering what options were out there for us, and if this was something that could be done in a way that is congruent with our beliefs that life begins at conception and that all life matters. So, like I said, for us, we believe that life begins at conception. What that means for us is that when the sperm and the egg meet, that's when life begins, and that's when life forms. Because of that, there are some concerns ethically with the fact that there's attrition rates involved in IVF. So when they perform IVF with ICSI, what happens is they take the sperm and the egg and they physically put them together. If you haven't done research on it, then you're prone to think that that means that the eggs are automatically fertilized. If you've done research on it, you know that just because you put the sperm and the egg together doesn't actually mean that fertilization has taken place. Sometimes it doesn't take place. Even when the sperm and the egg are put together, they don't fertilize, and nothing comes of it. So, given that, that's one of the things that we've learned along the way, is there's just a lot more to consider than what we had thought there was previously. So from there can be more attrition. Not all of those eggs that are fertilized and become embryos, not all of them continue to grow. Some of them seize, and unfortunately they die in the process. My doctor said that you can expect, typically, of the eggs that fertilize, about 70% of them will continue to grow. Or at least that's what she expects, is about 70% of them will continue to grow. And so that means that 30% of them, unfortunately, would end up dying. And we do see those as lives that died. However, when you take into consideration the rates of miscarriage and the rates of, not even miscarriage, but there's the potential for the fact that people under normal circumstances may be having a conception occur, but may never even have an official miscarriage because it doesn't go anywhere from that. It never implants. So when you take those things into consideration, we think that that falls within the normal rates of either miscarriage or lack of implantation. Additionally, we feel that IVF is a treatment for our condition because my husband's condition is congenital bilateral absence of the vas deferens, and that makes it so that there is no physical way that sperm are ever able to leave my husband's body because he doesn't have vas deferens. While we do believe that it's possible that the Lord could heal him and sperm, the vas deferens could be miraculously grown, we don't feel like that is something that the Lord is calling us to wait on right now. We think that this is where we are being guided to. This is, the way we see it, this is a medical solution that God has led us to, that allows us to remove the barrier that exists that prevents us from having a biological family. So in addition to that, in addition to the concerns that I've expressed so far, there's also ethical considerations. I'm reading my notes just so you can be clear about what I'm looking over. There's also ethical considerations when it comes to the freezing and unfreezing of the embryos. Some people believe that it's not ethical to freeze embryos in order that they can live full lives later. Other people think that it is ethical to do so. We think that it's okay to freeze the embryos because we have no intention of ever discarding any of our M babies. And we see them as babies. So I will also say that we don't plan to make an excess of embryos either. Even if we were to have 40 eggs retrieved or some kind of ridiculous number like that, we would only be attempting to fertilize a number that we would be comfortable with using. Any embryos that we do have that remain in our possession after we have completed our family, if there are any, we have every intention of donating those embryos so that other families who are unable to create embryos themselves are able to adopt them, essentially, and use them and give them the full life that they deserve to have. That's our intent. And we see that process just like any other adoption process. It's a gift, it's an option that would allow families to fulfill their dreams ultimately, and so that's our plan in the event that we have embryos that we will not be needing. Also, there is the aspect of PGD or PGS testing. That's testing that's run to let you know if there's any genetic issues with your embryos, if their chromosomes aren't all there. We've determined that for us, we won't be performing that testing. Some doctors would recommend it, given that my husband has 2 cystic fibrosis genes, and it appears that I don't have any of the most common ones, but there's no way to be 100% sure unless we were to test for all of them in our embryos. But we've concluded that we won't be doing any kind of genetic testing on our embryos in the event that they are not chromosomally normal, or this leads to multiple miscarriages for us. That's a burden that we have decided we are not happy to bear, but that we are willing to bear. We want to make the entire process as normal as we're able to, and so we've decided that this is the best option for us. I'd like to say that just because these are the decisions that we've made for us and our family, that doesn't mean that we have or hold any judgment to those people who decide to do things differently. We very prayerfully considered every decision we've made. None of this was done without immense thought, many discussions, lots of prayer, lots of going back to the biblical teachings that we hold true. Given that, I would appreciate that if you disagree with our decisions, that you are respectful enough to not say hateful or mean things because you disagree. I would not do that to you in the event that you decide on something different path. This is what we feel like is best for us and our path to grow our family. I wanted to just make this video because I know that some people do wonder about the ethical considerations. I know that there's a lot of people, even that we know personally, who have questioned our ability to decide that this can be done ethically. But we feel confident moving forward that this is what the Lord has put on our hearts. He's calling for us to do this and to move forward with this process. And ultimately, that's going to be my main takeaway for you as well. If you are a Christian, or if you hold any deeply held religious beliefs that might say that this is an ethical gray area, pray about it. That would be my number one advice to you, is pray about it consistently. Talk about it with your spouse to make sure that you are on the same page, because that's really important as well. This is not something that either of you should be moving forward with if either of you are uncomfortable with it. You and God need to be moving forward together in this process. And I think that that's the best way to make sure that your ethics are in line with your beliefs. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to have you subscribe. If you want to watch our journey, we're definitely going to be having the PESA procedure next week, so I'm looking forward to the results from that. Hopefully we'll go ahead and get a lot of sperm so that we can have lots of ability to make our embryos, and we're hoping to start the IVF shots and everything next month, so stick around. We're hoping that it's a short but happy ride.